The orchard wasn't just a patch of dirt to Elias Tanner, it was a levying testament to his family's hands, a sprawling quilt of apple trees stitched into the earth by his grandfather decades ago. The land rolled gently down a slope just beyond the city limits of Willow Creek, a quiet town where the air smelled of damp soil and blossoms in spring. Every fall, the trees bore fruit-crisp, tarred apples that Elias would crate up and share with neighbors or press in a cider. In summer, the canopy offered cool shade. In the mornings, birdsong wove through the branches like a hymn. It was simple, sacred, a place where time slowed and the world made sense. That's why, on a crisp Monday in late March 2025, when Elias stepped onto his porch with a steaming mug of coffee and saw a jagged, muddy scar torn through the lower third of his orchard, the shock hit him like a punch to the gut. He blinked, thinking at first it might be a trick of the lightest shadow cast wrong by the rising sun. But no, there it was, a trench 2 feet wide and 2 feet deep, slicing through his land like a careless knife. Coffee sloshed over the rim of his mug as he stumbled forward, boots crunching on the gravel path. Small orange flags dotted the edges, paired with stakes and a laminated sign hammered into the soil. He squinted at the words, HOA Drainage Improvement Project Pine Hollow Estates. Pine Hollow was the manicured subdivision 200 yards downhill from his property, a cluster of cookie-cutter houses with pristine lawns and a homeowners association that ruled with an iron clipboard. Elias wasn't part of it, never had been. He'd inherited the orchard free and clear, a deed older than the HOA's bylaws, and he'd never signed a damn thing tying him to their rules. Yet here they were, carvying up his land like it was theirs to claim. He followed the trench uphill, his jaw tightening with every step, mud sucking at his boots. The path of destruction was surgical in its brutality. 6 mature apple trees lay severed at the roots, their trunks splintered, their branches sagging like broken wings. Irrigation pipes he'd spent a summer installing were mangled, twisted metal poking through the churned earth. At the top of the hill, where his property kissed the HOA's pristine cedar fence, he found the culprits, 2 contractors in neon vests, shoveling dirt with the casual rhythm of men who didn't know they were trespassing. One looked up, wiping sweat from his brow. "Can I help you?" Elias asked, forcing his voice steady, though his pulse thrummed in his ears. "Just finishing the runoff line," the man said, nodding toward the trench. "Who gave you permission to dig here?" Elias pressed. The second contractor paused, blinking. "We were told the HOA had an easement." "They don't," Elias said flatly. The two exchanged a glance, uncertainty flickering between them. Elias didn't shout, didn't need to. He pulled out his phone, hit record, and let the camera do the talking. "This is private property," he said, voice clear as a bell. "You're trespassing. You've damaged agricultural land, cut through fruit-bearing trees, and destroyed irrigation. All in the name of your site, Super VY. Now, that lit a fire under them. Within 10 minutes, the crew packed their tools and scurried off, Leah VYing behind a mess that couldn't be undone so easily. Elias stood there, staring at the wreckage, then dialed the Pine Hollow HOA hotline. After 15 minutes of hold music and 2 transfers, he landed on a voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Lydia Voss, the HOA VYC president. "Oh, Mr. Tanner," she cooed. "We were under the impression that slope was in used runoff space." "It's my orchard," he shot back. "Well, it's downhill adjacent to our development," she said, as if geography justified everything. Legally speaking, it could be considered a community runoff buffer in drainage emergencies. In what world does that let you dig a trench through my land without asking? Lydia let out a laugh, so fake it could have been plastic wrapped. "Let's not be adversarial. We're protecting our residents. A landscaping assessment showed your slope was ideal for redirecting seasonal overflow." "You mean my land's ideal for keeping your gazebos dry?" Elias snapped. Silence stretched, then, "No need to get dramatic. I'll have our legal team draft a clarification letter. The trench states it's functional." She hung up before he could respond. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just trespassing. They'd turned his orchard into their drainage dump, a fix for their shoddy planning. their refusal to build a proper retention system. They assumed he'd roll over because he was the quiet guy with the trees, the one who didn't care about their cul-de-sac politics or their next-door rants. Lydia Voss mistook his silence for weakness, but Elias wasn't angry not yet. He was calculating. His orchard sat above Pine Hollow, feeding their streets, their storm drains, their precious common areas. And now, with that trench, they'd handed him a loaded gun. He studied the trench's path. It sloped downhill into their neighborhood, but they'd angled it toward a retention pond on their far end, a half-baked attempt to control runoff without permits. It relied on him Leah V.Y.ing it alone. Big mistake. Elias knew his land every dip, every channel, every natural flow etched into his memory from years of walking it. They'd given him a problem, sure, but they'd also given him leverage. 2 days later, the forecast called for a storm 3 inches of rain overnight, a flash flood watch in effect. Lydia's latest HOA newsletter had crowed about how their drainage upgrades would keep Pine Hollow pristine. Elias smirked as he read it, then grabbed a flashlight, gloves, and a shovel. At midnight, with thunder rumbling in the distance, he walked to the trench's head. In 20 minutes, he made 2 adjustments, a shallow bypass dug to the right, redirecting flow toward Pine Hollow's clubhouse and picnic area, and a concrete block dropped where their trench met the retention pond, sealing it off. No damage, no sabotage, just GRAVY ties helping hand. He went to bed as the first raindrops tapped his roof. At 3:43 a.m., thunder woke him. So did a text from his friend Sam, a Pine Hollow resident who secretly loathed Lydia. "Dude, you up? You gotta see this." Elias pulled on his boots and drove the long way around to avoid suspicion. When he arrived, it was chaos. Water surged through Pine Hollow's lower green space, the trench funneling runoff straight into their clubhouse lawn. The picnic tables floated like driftwood, the tennis courts shimmered like ponds, and the playground was a swamp. By dawn, the HOA's Facebook group erupted. Why didn't the drainage work? We paid Dula $14,000 for this. Lydia posted a weak defense. The system performed as designed. The rain was unprecedented, but soggy mulch drifting past mailboxes told a different story. Sam sent Elias a photo. Lydia knee-deep in muddy water, a trash bag over her hair, barking into a walkie-talkie. Elias saved it, chuckling. The beauty of it? They couldn't claim insurance unpermitted work on private land, left them high and dry. When a nosy HOA board member called Elias, he played dumb. "I had to redirect runoff to save my trees after your trench tore through. I got a damage report, photos, timestamps, the works." Suddenly, Pine Hollow faced a storm of their own making, and it wasn't just rain. The fallout hit fast. 2 days later, with their common areas resembling a wetland, the HOA called an emergency meeting. Elias didn't attend, but Sam live-texted the carnage. Lydia stood at the front, pie chart in hand, claiming the trench exceeded projections. Then old man Carvera, grizzled retiree who rarely spoke, slapped a Google Maps printout on the table. "I walked it. That trench starts on Tanner's orchard, not our land. That's trespassing. That's a lawsuit." Lydia stammered about verbal consent, but Sam called her bluff. "Elias has receipts, VY Deos, GPS logs." "You never asked." The room turned. Questions piled up. Why no permits? Why no retention wall? Until Sarah Klein, a soft-spoken mom, dropped a bombshell. An invoice for Dula $3,400, signed by Lydia, for the trench, paid from HOA funds with no documentation. The crowd went feral. "You spent our money on an illegal ditch." Lydia's ally, Beth, resigned on the spot, tossing her clipboard like a grenade. Sam motioned to suspend Lydia. Sarah seconded. Hands shot up, and Lydia bolted, pie charts and all, into the muddy path she'd once called progress. But Elias wasn't done. The trench still scarred his land, and no one had apologized or paid. He called his cousin Nora, a land use attorney with a shark's grin and a taste for justice. Over coffee, he handed her the EVY Denke. Photos, VY Deos, the HOA's smug newsletter, drone shots of the flood, his deed, a time-stamped image of the trench slicing through a boundary marker he'd planted years ago. Nora flipped through it, then said, "They're screwed." Within a week, she filed a Sootsie VYL trespass, property damage, unlawful alteration of agricultural land, and interference with irrigation. They named the HOA and Lydia personally, since she'd greenlit the funds without a vote. Word spread like wildfire. The Willow Creek Gazette ran a headline: "Orchard owner sues HOA over rogue trench." At the hearing, Nora was a force of nature, presenting a slideshow of flood paths and tree stumps. Lydia's lawyer fumbled, claiming community benefit, but Nora countered with a newsletter: "Our trench will redirect orchard runoff." The judge smirked. Then came the surveyor's affidavit VY to no easement existed. Lydia whispered to her lawyer, "We thought it counted as common access." Nora pounced, thinking doesn't make it legal. They won due law $24,000 from the HOA, due law $4,000 from Lydia, plus an order to fill the trench in 14 days and post a public apology. The judge's parting shot: "Next time, don't cross a property line to fix your drainage." Elias watched the landscaping crew undo their mess, sipping coffee from a mug labeled "Not Your Drain." Neighbors stopped by, nodding approval. Lydia had it coming. But the real VY Tory came later. With the payout, Elias planted new trees, upgraded his fence, and threw a barbecue for the neighborhood everyone but Lydia in VY Ted. Sam DJ'd a playlist called Trench Tunes, and kids ran through the orchard, laughing. Then the HOA imploded. The due law 28,000 hit sparked a financial audit, uncovering due law 133,000 in shady, spending due law 55,000 of it to Lydia's consulting firm. The board filed a complaint. Residents sued for recovery. Lydia's house went up for sale, her reign reduced to a faded for sale sign. In the end, Pine Hollow dissolved the HOA, forming a volunteer association with a charter pledging respect for private land. They asked Elias to speak at their first meeting. Standing on the clubhouse steps, he kept it short. Respect keeps a neighborhood dry, not power. They gave him a plaque. Orchard Guardian in Franklin. The new president carved a community logo, a tree, a shovel, and a boot. Spring came, and Elias's trees bloomed again, the trench a memory, the runoff flowing where it belonged into his soil, not their lawns. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.